Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Fan Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Uh-huh. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
If you're a fan of comic books and comic book conventions, Daytona Beach Comic Con needs to be on your list of must attend events. It's a show that actually focuses on comic books. Imagine that! This year's event is happening on Saturday, September the 6th, and Sunday, September the 7th. Silverline creators will be there, so we'll see you at the show. There's a new convention in town, and it's sure to be mega fun without the mega expense. Comics, toys, collectibles, pop culture. ShadowCon, Saturday, February 1st, 2025, in Orlando, Florida. Silverline creators will be there, so we'll see you at the show. If you find yourself in the Orlando area, and let's be honest, doesn't everyone come to Orlando for the House of Mouse? Head over to Coliseum of Comics to get your comic book fix. Be sure to check out their location on East Colonial Drive, where they carry a wide selection of independent comics, including Silverline books. Stop by and don't forget to tell them Silverline sent you. Hey, if you're an independent comic creator looking to get your comic printed, look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our comics and do a fantastic job. They can even print special edition covers. When you reach out to them, be sure to tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday night as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Hello everybody, good evening. Tonight our topic is going to be an interesting one. Whoa, whatever is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Huh, huh. Sorry.
Don't quit your day job.
My day job. No, I will not. I will not quit the day job. So yes. Yeah. So that's just a little bit of a hint of where we're going to be going tonight. So welcome to Wednesday Wham, everyone. And we are joined with our usual rabble. So we will start off the wonderful festivities with our Empress of Inks. Barb, how are you doing tonight?
Good. Catching up on some inks for Silverline. And no, it's not Rob's pencils. It's something else.
All right. So Barb, give everybody just the brief rundown of what you do and where you've been and what you've done.
Everything.
She's done everything.
We were just discussing this before we come on. I don't think there's a genre of comics I have not inked. Because tonight's topic is war, and I'm like, yeah, I've done one of those.
Yeah. All right. So Barb has inked almost everything under the sun and then some, and she's never missed a deadline. So this is our Empress of Inks, Barb. And Rob, our venerable penciler and inker on occasion. How are you doing?
Sometimes.
And letterer sometimes. And publisher and
and
and bus driver and yeah. Retired. Give us a quick rundown of where you're coming from and what you've been up to.
Okay, well, I started my career about the same time Barb did, 30 years ago, and have been in and out of the industry since then. Probably best known for the work I did on the Star Trek books for Malibu and DC. Since then, I've done everything from design T-shirts to advertising illustrations for games, just all kinds of stuff. But I still haven't done romance comics or Western comics. So,
All right.
My latest from Silverline was Twilight Grim, but Barb and I are working on a special project that before long we could probably announce, but we'll see.
But
Will it check one of the future boxes?
but doesn't Twilight Grim fall
no.
into the romance category?
What does it?
Twilight Grim?
Well, it has some romance in it, but
It's
yeah,
not
Well, there you go.
it's not like the 50s romance books.
Right.
Where the focus is on the relationships and the romance that's in the relationships. Even like Daughter of Dracula has some could be considered a romantic thing, but it talks more about war, and I'll show you some scenes from it here, the ones I
Awesome.
can show.
Yeah.
But while we're talking, but yeah,
All right.
but I haven't done a focused romance book. So,
Right.
Yeah.
All right, and Kasisi down below me.
Hey,
Welcome to the jungle.
Yep, I'm in the jungle trying to survive. Trying
give
to
us-
get acquainted with the
Yeah,
wildlife.
the wildcats will come through before long, I'm sure.
Yeah,
So
aspiring writer. So done the Silverline Christmas issue like in the intro there, and then Silverline team up. So the new one with Tempest and Miss Fury coming out, and then hopefully there's another project that is in the works too. But I can't really say much about it yet until it's greenlit. But that one will be awesome, I think. Yeah.
All right, excellent, wonderful. All right, now I did have a question for one of you, but I don't remember. When I remember it, I will ask you. So, all right, okay, and I am Martin Mertonen. I am the colorist of this wonderful book, Wolfhunter, which is in the middle of a crowdfunder. So you guys can go and get issue 1 if you missed issue 1, and you can get issue 2. Issue 2 is the crowdfunding campaign, and there are some awesome, wonderful what are they called? Add-ons that are connected there. I'm so sorry. Now the
That's why there's
pencils.
4 of us here. We cover for each other.
The pencils, I think, have been taken.
Yep.
The pencils have been taken, but the inks are still available on so you can get the original inks. And was that done by you, Barb? The original inks for that cover for Wolfhunter 2?
I thought it was Tommy, right?
No,
it wasn't
Must
you.
be
It was
Tommy.
Tommy.
Yeah, it's
Must be
Tommy.
Tommy.
So the Dean Zachary cover.
Yep.
All right, Tommy. All right. Okay.
I'm reading
So-
it, right? Let's see.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. So this is the alternate cover for issue 1, and then this we might see this pop up again, but the original version of that later. This was a tribute to a Russ Heath cover that we decided to incorporate, and I colored that puppy. That was a lot of fun to color. That was really interesting. That was a different take. All right, war. Whatever is it good for? We're talking war comics. Hey, Grey Wolf, welcome. We're talking war comics tonight. Hopefully, you can add your 2 cents to some of your favorite war comics, and maybe some modern ones and old ones. What are our thoughts? Do we have any thoughts on war comics to start off? Where, well, war first of all is not fun, but you can get some really cool stories out of it.
And
So.
see, are we considering war comics that have the backdrop of war, or comics whose focus of the story is war?
yes.
Either or.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I
think
the
so.
only way we can keep actually, the World War I is kind of the focus of Daughter of Dracula, but the romance between the Daughter of Dracula and the Baron von Richthofen is the focus of the story. But,
So
yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of comics out there that deal with combat situation, like Sergeant Rock and
Yeah,
the Howling
that's a whole.
Commandos and stuff like that. But there's also comics out there that deal with the ramifications of war,
Right.
like Mouse.
Mhm.
You know, Mouse is all about the Holocaust, so it deals with the fallout of war, but it's still about war.
Right.
But if war was simply the backdrop, so if Sound of Music was a comic, would you say that that was a war comic?
Yeah.
Okay. This is what, yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
trying
because
to understand
the
playing field.
ramifications, yeah, that it affects the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Big time, it affects the story. So, yeah, and the father of the kids is a military man. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
They're running
think it
from
fits.
they're running from the Nazis.
Mhm.
Yep.
I agree, Grey Wolf. I agree.
Yes. So Wolfhunter 1, the first issue, has excellent renderings of the airplanes. So if you want to see accurate airplanes and military stuff, the first issue has all that.
So then last question. So we're saying war comics have to be a representation of wars that have happened in our history.
But not necessarily, no. I think we can go. We can also go
Yeah.
into the fantasy mode because
Okay.
I would
sometimes
think like I'm blanking. Terminator movies would count. Because they're about war.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
War between machines and human beings. So yeah, that would fit.
Yeah, so there's I guess you could say social commentary that happens on in the fantasy realm. So yeah, there was an actual real fascinating comic from the 80s from the Epic line from Marvel about some sort of weird space war. It was a beautifully done book. I don't remember what it was called, but it was really, really well done.
Not Alien Legion, was it?
No, it wasn't Alien Legion. It was
Hi,
I
Pops.
don't remember for the life of me what it was, but it was really, really
Okay.
good. So if I ever find it, I will let you know, Rob. So I'm just showing off. This is my favorite page in the new
Wolfhunter.
book because I really rendered the snot out of this this briefcase or this carry case, and I thought it just ended up capturing a whole bunch of little nice little
watercolorish.
stuff in
Very
there.
Watercolorish.
So that was a lot of fun to render. So I just wanted to show that off to let you know that that's what one of the pages looks like. This is what another one of the pages looks like.
Sweet.
I may or may not be showing these in order. So as you can see, there's a train chase that happens, and there's some lots of fun stuff going on in this tale. So I'm just giving you guys whetting your appetite so you can go run to that GoFundMe that crowdfunder on grab yourself an issue of
That's 74%. Yeah, help us.
Fund my comic, right?
Fund my comic. Yeah. So yeah. All right. So that's enough of me bragging about myself there. Let's yeah. Okay, so now when I was a kid, we used to travel across Canada. I used to live in Winnipeg, which is in the center of the country, and I would go off to Sault Ste. Marie to go visit my grandparents, and then on the way home we would stop by some friends in the wonderful city of Thunder Bay, which is on the edge of Lake Superior. And when we visited, the son there, he was a little older than I was, but he had reams of comics all the time. He had Archies and Jugheads, and he sometimes would have these war comics sitting around, and they blew my mind. And there would be like the dog fights and all these other stuff going on in the books, and that was kind of my introduction into war comics. I can't say that I went out of my way to collect them, but when I saw them, they kind of stopped me in my tracks, and that was kind of my first experience with the war comics. What experiences do you guys recall, and did any of them have an impact on you?
I faithfully followed Steve Canyon every Sunday.
Yeah, in the comic strips. Yep.
Yeah.
Me too. Me too.
That's exactly right.
Beautifully drawn, well written, interesting characters.
Mm-hmm.
Milton Caniff was the artist and writer.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
My dad noticed that too, Grey Wolf. My dad is a World War II buff. So by the time I was 5, I knew what the Battenberg and Battle of the Bulge and all that stuff, even though I didn't really recognize the context, but I knew the words.
No. This particular collection, I don't think has much in the way of war. It's more interrelationships.
And he was an aviator. Steve Canyon was so.
Right.
So most of his was it was flying and it relationships with folks and some adventures that he was
There's
on.
There's some airplane stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fantastic at spotting blacks and setting up the scenes. So yeah, amazing stuff there. All right. So you would read Steve Canyon faithfully. And did like any particular storylines pop out at you, or do you remember any of them, or do you just remember reading them?
Honey, that was over 60 years ago.
Yeah. It's been a long time ago.
Oh, okay. I just found an action sequence, but I can't say it's war, but it's action. So
there were usually a few fist fights and that sort of thing. Yeah, that's a good sequence.
Yes.
That's Caniff. I mean, yeah, and as you can see, he's built it so your eye is carried through the action.
Yeah, and in that second page, not a single word is said, and you get everything that you need.
Exactly.
Amazing. Fantastic work. Yeah.
He was a master.
All right. So you read Steve Canyon. What about you there, Rob? And do you recall any of your first comics in the war genre?
I didn't collect them myself. I didn't buy them off the shelf. I did occasionally see them. And when I was very young, my dad or mother would take me to the barber shop like every week, every 2 weeks. And there was always a big stack of comic books, and sometimes some of those were war comics. So you'd sit and read those while you waited your turn in the chair in the barbershop. And so I got, and I didn't read that many DCs either. So the Superman books and those, I read those at the barbershop. I didn't see them. I didn't collect those until much, much later. But yeah, that's where I first saw him. And of course, the Koepp was the epitome of well done comics. He and I didn't know the guy's name at the time. It was Russ Heath, was also another very excellent artist who did some of the war comics. So yeah, it's interesting that we're talking about Caniff, we're talking about Koepp, we're talking about some of the masters of the genre of comics, but and they did a lot of war comics.
Yeah, that stuff is awesome.
Yes, just incredible.
We can't forget Snoopy and the Red Baron either.
So Charles Schultz, yes.
I remember that from my childhood.
Okay, so here's a Joe Kubert cover. So yeah, he captured the essence of war really well.
Yeah, it was grim and gritty. Yep.
Yeah.
Before the superhero comics became grim and gritty.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so now
and of course, another one that I saw more of because I was a Marvel fan was Sergeant Fury's Howling Commandos.
Mm-hmm.
I probably saw more of those than any other. But yeah. I think I have
then,
I have a few of those.
whoops.
I know one
Sergeant
where
Rock.
Captain America shows up. I definitely had
Sergeant
that in my
Rock.
collection.
Losers. Yeah, I had Sergeant Fury here somewhere. Let me see if I can pull that up here. Sergeant Fury, come on. Where are you at? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I would bring it up before.
Sergeant Rock, Battle Cry, Two-Fisted Tales. There were quite a lot of war comics at one time.
Most of them came from DC. I think.
Yes, they did.
I'm trying to think. There were only 2 that ever came from Marvel that I can recall.
Right.
One of them didn't last very long. Which was kind of based loosely. It was kind of a knockoff of the Howling Commandos, but I cannot remember the title of it. It was around for so short a time. There you go, Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos.
Yeah.
And that's Severin. John Severin. Yeah, that looks like his work there.
Yeah. All right. So it's interesting though. So Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos. So they started off as this, and then eventually, I guess, because the war comics eventually kind of faded from the limelight, or not necessarily limelight.
Those and westerns both kind of faded in popularity.
They moved Sergeant Fury into more of a spy-ish kind of character.
Well, that's in reaction to James Bond. So
yeah. So
in the movement in history,
70s,
right?
In the 70s, when Vietnam happened, that really squashed the war comic.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a book called The Nam, but that happened after Vietnam.
Yeah, right.
But during the Vietnam War, the last thing that young kids or young adults wanted to read was something that glorified war, because it was all against the war then.
Right.
So they really dropped off the face of the earth for a long time.
And the war comic, you would have to think, right?
No.
We transitioned from those big conventional wars to a Cold War. So it would make sense that, the new war comic would be more spy-like, because there was always this subterfuge and hey, behind the scenes, this is the war that is going on. So spies would kind of rise, not that they were, bad before, but they would kind of rise.
They were Cold Warriors, essentially.
That's the book that I was talking about, The Nam. Yes, that is a Marvel book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
that kind of was the resurgence of war comics. As I recall, I never read it or collected it. It was pretty gruesome.
And
if I recall properly.
And until Desert Storm happened, we really didn't have any patriotic, inclination towards war.
So yeah. So I was just going to say, speaking of Desert Storm.
Yeah, that was Desert Storm. And I mean, we rolled through there so damn fast that we got all cocky. And
can you show us some interior pages in there, or is that
yeah. It's called Overkill with Ernie Steiner, and it's this page here or right here. They're sitting around. They're talking big. They're talking smack. Down talking the Iraqis and everything. And then the one guy actually crashes in Iraq, and he's terrified. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna die." After he's smack talk all these guys, and then what happens is that in the end, he thinks he's going to get captured by a bunch of Iraqis, and it's the Iraqis surrender to him because they're poor and downtrodden, and they're not the fearful killers that he was fearing.
Right. So you can present some very interesting messages telling war stories. So
they were just as miserable as he was.
Was that book based on a true story?
I'm not sure. This was 1991, so my memory from back then is a little hazy. But yeah, this was right after Desert Storm, and everything. Everybody was all gung ho and everything like that. So Innovation quick whipped out a war comic.
Right. Yeah. So speaking of real stories, I picked up this wonderful book called Facts from Sarajevo by Joe Koepp. And this is an amazing piece of work because it's based on a true story, and it tells the harrowing story of a guy who is trying to get out of the situation in Bosnia Herzegovina, I guess Yugoslavia, and what happens is I guess this guy was a comic book artist over there, and he was a friend of Joe Koepp, and he writes to Joe Koepp, "Can you help me get out of this situation?" And so that they decide to try and help him get out, and they look for help. And so what ends up happening in this comic, you actually get some of the transcriptions of the stuff, of the letters that come from the guy in the war. And so this documents the whole kind of story, and they meet this guy who's supposed to help them, and they give him the money, and he disappears.
Common story.
A coyote. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've got the comic story interspersed with the actual letters that are actually happening, that are like actual real letters from the person. And then not only do you get that at the back of the book. Oh, so some like the presentation of the book is just absolutely stunning.
Irvin Gets Out.
Yeah, that's his like chapter 11. Irvin Gets Out. But at the back of the book, every single one of the chapters has a note from the author, which is Joe Koepp, right? And then it has every single chapter has like the information that the real life information that correlates to the chapter and what the source material is.
Wow.
So it's kind of
nice.
Discusses. So you get this like literal documentation. And here's Joe Koepp himself. My screen froze. Am I still there?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
But I'm not moving.
You're non-animated at the moment.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry, but yeah. So this book is a fascinating look into a snapshot of time, and you get to see the story unfold it's a compelling story, and it's a good read, as in like it takes a while to read, so you're not just like
you're getting your money's worth.
You get your money's worth. You definitely get your money's worth. It is packaged so well, and if you want to take comics into a different direction, and try something new and different, or try something that's like a little bit innovative, this would be a textbook case of
it's a good example of it. Yeah,
absolutely. It would be. It's a brilliant package. It's really, really well done. And if you were to buy a copy of it, or go to the library and pick it up, it's a handsome book that you can put on your shelf, and it's beautiful.
Why don't you try going out and coming back in, Martin?
Yep. I will.
I'm going to ask Cassisi a question while you're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Now you were and are, because nobody ever is a former Marine, right? So
yeah.
You're a writer. So have you thought about writing a war comic?
No, not really. Not in that way. And I don't know. And I was thinking about this as we were going around the horn. I've never really been attracted to, the stories that happen, the ramifications of war. That would be incorporated in a story, but never like a story that is solely about it. Or,
You couldn't write a combat story.
I don't think I would
Even.
want to. That's the thing. I don't think I
Yeah.
would want to. Like I would. For instance, I like Divinity because I like that Zach is a product of the Marines, right? And so you can take, that culture and you can take that indoctrination that he went through and say, okay, well, now we're going to place this warrior in like this real world situation, the civilian situation, and like all the things that are kind of either lost in translation, things he can't break, right? Things that have
Mhm.
been conditioned in him, and tell that story. I think that's a lot more interesting when you put warriors together. I'm sure there are great stories told about that, right? There are. People do that really, really well. It's just not something that I, would want to write. I would,
It's not in your wheelhouse. Okay.
no, I would write a comedy maybe because it's very funny.
Oh
Very
yeah, I have
right.
dozens of funny stories from my son
Yeah.
from all the deployments he's been on, and none of the bad stuff, because of course, what son is going to tell his mom the bad stuff, right?
Right. The things you talk about, the things you do,
And they're hilarious.
yeah, it's so funny, right? In the off time, but like I just don't think I would want to tell that story. But that's just me, right? So no, I've never been inclined to write sort of a story that is either centered around that kind of war. Warring nations, maybe in a fantasy realm. Yeah, the product that comes from that, but not solely just based on it, if that makes sense.
So speaking of war comics that have humor, Sad Sack.
I
Yes,
remember
Sad
Sad
Sack.
Sack.
I remember those. Yeah.
He was the Gomer Pyle of comics.
So this was introduced to me in elementary school, and I remember my friends had copies of this, and it was always considered kind of like the secondhand comic.
Yeah.
It wasn't the legit comics. It was like everyone. It was weird. And then I guess you could say in competition with him was this guy, Beetle Bailey, right?
Oh yes.
So good old Beetle Bailey.
He was in the comics every Sunday.
Yeah. So
Still
I
is.
I
He's still
remember
in the comics.
Yeah, so I remember Beetle Bailey from the daily newspaper strips. So yeah. So I remember him more from the kind of like the 3-panel jokes.
There's a
But
there's a sculpture.
I did read a
Beetle
couple of
Bailey.
of the color comics, Beetle Bailey.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's
So
funny.
now-
He's carving the potato there.
yes,
My dad always says that's the only thing he ever picked up cooking wise was how to peel a potato.
Mhm.
no. Does Silverline give out prizes for comic trivia? Do we give trinkets to people, or do we give no prizes like good old Stan Lee used to?
We just give a pat on the back and a shout out.
Okay, so all right, we'll give you a shout out. We'll give you a shout out. Does anybody know who Beetle Bailey's sister is?
Lois
From
High and Lois. The comic strip High and Lois.
and do we know anyone else that they might be related to?
Are you serious?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's the sister of Lois from High and Lois.
I did not know
Beetle Bailey was created by a guy who went to school at the University of Missouri. There's actually a sculpture of Beetle Bailey on the campus.
that. Oh my god.
Where Beetle Bailey started out as a college kid on a college campus, and then he got drafted, and the popularity of the strip skyrocketed after that. But he hung out in a place called the Shack, which actually existed on the campus of MU until probably about 10, 15 years ago, when they knocked it down, and it's a big, beautiful. It's a field now right next to the law building, but Beetle Bailey. Now also another strip from Mort Walker was the Viking. Forget his name.
Right, Hagar the Horrible.
Hagar the Horrible. My dad's favorite.
He's also from the Mort Walker school. And there's probably another one I can't think of right off the top of my head. There were several like that.
Was Wizard? No, not Wizard of Id.
No, that's different.
No, but now Beetle Bailey and Lois are also related to one other character. Do you
Yeah,
know
I'm not.
who?
Charlie
I,
Brown.
No,
I should, but no.
I'm joking.
Blondie Bumpstead.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Well, that was a completely
believe
different
so.
artist.
yes, it was.
Okay.
But I believe
All right,
that was Chick Young, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. So,
Blondie
but
must have gotten all the looks in the family then.
but I believe they were related. If my history could, so somebody might be able to correct me, but that's what I'm under the impression
I don't know
of.
that one. I don't know that one for a fact, but yeah, it's possible. Yeah, and that's the thing. The thing about Dagwood is people don't realize that Blondie was a splapper from the 20s, you know, and Dagwood was actually he was from a rich family. He was and of course he got enamored with Blondie, and his family disowned him after he married her, and that's why he's so hapless. He doesn't know how to handle life because he was
Born
pampered
with a silver spoon.
rich kid. So
Didn't know
yeah,
that
but
either.
that's the basis of the strip.
Mhm.
Never knew that. That's cool. So Beetle Bailey and Sad Sack.
I know some of the craziest trivia.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure that he was related to Blondie, but he did appear in the Blondie comic.
That I don't know. I don't know. Well, it's quite possible he appeared there. You know, because that's happened over the years where there's some crossover sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I know Little Orphan Annie shows up in Dick Tracy all the time.
Dick Tracy showed up
These
in
days.
Little Abner.
Well, yes, and
Fosdick.
Fearless
Fosdick.
Fosdick. Yeah.
Fearless Fosdick was a Dick Tracy ripoff? Was that?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, he was making fun of Dick Tracy. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so
yeah, we just veered off. We veered off track.
Yeah, we went veered. My God, we went right off the trestle and into the gorge.
But speaking of comic humor,
my fault for jumping into the trivia pot.
Yeah. So speaking of comic humor, I found this really interesting archival piece. Yeah. So Will Eisner was one of the fathers of comics, or the graphic novel, and he produced this stuff, and this was actual mechanical preventative maintenance comics that they gave to the military so that they could take care of their stuff. And so he would tell humorous stories, and then he would explain, this is why you take care of your stuff. And like, you know, one of the stories might be, this is why you maintain your gun so you don't get shot, right? What else would they do? Then you know, of course, he would throw in the pinups for the guys, and then let's see if I can find somewhere where they have a truck maintenance. Here's something on kind of stuff on the truck maintenance, and he did these for quite some time. Like there are a lot of. Yeah, here you go. So this is the truck maintenance. I guess this is how you
showed how to actually fix things. Yeah, did diagrams and everything. Yeah.
So this is how you make truck maintenance sexy.
Yeah.
Stick in the hot girl building stuff, and then you'll finish the comic, right? And then, you know. But I mean, it's great humorous stuff in here. Like the artwork is brilliant. Don't blind date the M35 and the M35 trucks. Okay, so like, all right. So I guess he relates, you know, taking care of your truck, comparing it to a blind date. And so then they have a bunch of illustrations and stuff, and discusses, you know, this is why you take care of your truck and how you take care of your truck and all that kind of stuff.
Where'd you find that book?
Yeah.
I was just walking through a bookstore and it was sitting there.
I might
And
want
I
to
was
get
like,
one of those.
I got it. I have no choice but to grab this. Like, this is just like, I'm a Will Eisner fan, but like, I can't say I've like sat down and read this but flipping through it is just a fascinating archive of, the stuff that he did for the military.
It just shows another aspect of comics as storytelling.
Yeah.
How effective it can be. Yeah.
So you can, yeah, it's just, look, that, how to take care of your gearbox or whatever. Like,
I gotta get that for a gift.
Like, yeah, it's just super cool. Super cool. So anyways, so that was a very interesting little
you need to give us the ISBN on that after the show.
Yeah, so that was done by Abrams Comic Arts. Now I don't know how accessible but it's a cool piece of history. Very cool piece of history.
It's been published. You could probably might be able to find it on eBay.
2011. Yeah.
Okay.
It's Will Eisner's.
A while.
Yeah. Will Eisner PS magazine. Yeah. The best of preventive maintenance monthly. So yeah, that's a very cool piece. So this along with my facts from Sarajevo are two of my really, really cool books that I have that are related to war. Now I have another book here, The Corto Maltese, which is World War One.
That looks like
this is Hugo Pratt.
Wow.
Another master.
Yeah.
Another master. Yep.
So now this is pretty tame as it goes, but like just the drawings are just so cool. Like so simple, but so very effective.
Another guy knows how to spot blacks.
Yep, most definitely. So now I brought this up. This is a World War One book. Rob, you did a book that was set in World War One. What was that book again? Oh, there we go. The Daughter of Dracula. Let's solo. Yeah, there you go.
This is the cover.
Oh,
was an idea.
Okay.
A little.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little.
That's a good ad.
Well, and you notice it doesn't have the title on it. It's just that. That's. I always set that on the table at shows.
Oh my god!
Always, guys and gals both.
Oh my god!
Stop and look at it.
No doubt.
But there's some scenes from it. And you can see down here at the bottom. There actually, I drew some dogfights and some other scenes from the war, World War One.
Wow, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that grayscale or is that zip?
That's grayscale. That's I did that with Photoshop.
Okay.
Wow, that is
Very
sweet.
Crazy.
Yeah, I tried
Very
to make
cool.
it look like tried to give it the feel of an old Hammer film or an old black and white film.
Yeah.
And then
show us the dogfight.
Yeah, that's here.
Oh, there you go. Look at that, folks.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then
very cool.
Nice.
Yeah, this is an interesting book, and there's a story behind it. That the story for this Ron Fortier he wrote it as a screenplay first, and he couldn't get anybody to buy it. So then he wrote it as a comics graphic novel, and then he couldn't get anybody to draw it. And then he and I hooked, and no publishers interested in it, and so he and I reunited, and he pitched it to me, and I said, well, and to kind of gently put him off, I said, well, I could probably only get you 1 page a week. Thinking he would probably say no. And he says, sure, I'll go with that. I was stuck. I was stuck because, I said I would do that, and then let me see if there's any other scenes in
So
here.
so how long did it
Yeah,
take?
here
17 years later, is that?
it took almost 2 years. It was
Wow.
107 pages. So,
Wow. There you go.
but I faithfully turned in a page a week for that whole time.
Wow.
So, yeah, and here's another.
I like that.
Ooh, a
Smoke.
hinted a balloon.
Yeah,
A dirigible. Sorry, those are dirigible.
yeah, a surveillance balloon.
So what
Yeah.
kind of research did you have to do on that in order to
A lot. In fact, I discovered the triplanes were, the big DR, I forget what they're called, DR Fokkers.
yeah.
I thought those were throughout the war. They weren't. They were late in the war.
Yeah.
And I had already drawn them in all these scenes. So I had to go back and redraw them as biplanes rather than triplanes. So a
No.
lot of,
Oh.
yeah, every one of them. So I did some research and I discovered, see some of these, like, here, that plane there, I originally drew that as a triplane. And I
Those
had
are
to
one of
redraw
those OS moments.
it. Yeah. But I just pasted them in. I was doing the coloring in Photoshop, so I just pasted them in. It wasn't that big a deal, but yeah, wait a minute. Oh yeah, there's a scene here. Oh yeah, where she takes on. She and her
wow.
bats take on, because she's
cool.
fallen in love with von Richthofen, and he dies in a battle, and she goes nuts, and so she attacks the Allies, and just wreaks havoc. And
So
but it ends. So, but anyway,
where did you get?
some of the research I did?
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So where did you get all the outfits from? You had to go look up pictures, and did you go to the library or did you go
Google.
just Google?
By then, Google was available, so I started doing that. But
Baron von Richthofen.
Baron
Wow.
von Richthofen, the whole conceit
Bloody
of
Red
the
Baron.
stories. The Bloody Red Baron and Dracula's daughter meet and fall in love and have a torrid love affair, and then he dies in battle. She tries to turn him into a vampire as well, but before she can do it, he dies in battle. So, and she goes nuts. So,
wow. Hopefully you didn't give too much away, but folks,
yeah,
if you want,
the ending, it's kind of a the ending is unexpected. That's all I'll say.
All right.
It's
interesting.
It's not what you expect. So, but this is available. People see me at a show. Yeah, I know. All right, I'll show off this side of it more. Hey, it gets attention.
That's right.
Attention, I mean, all right. It works.
It's available.
It works.
It is available. Is what you're saying. That's available.
Yeah. So you can get it from. It's on Amazon. It's also, you see me at a show or you see Ron at a show. We've always got copies of it on our table.
Who did that
Every
cover?
show, I'm sorry.
Who did that cover?
Mark Maddox. Mark Maddox. Do you know him?
No.
He's from the Georgia, Atlanta area, and he does a lot of monster magazine covers and that sort of thing. That's most of the work he did. This was early in his career, and we asked him to do that cover for us, and we had a little bit of discussion about how it should be done. Ron wanted to do it where we didn't show her eyes, okay?
Okay.
Because he wanted her to, besides the grabbing of her bodice, but Mark wanted to show her eyes, to show her as beastly. But you'll note, Ron thought this would be the better way to go, and it is. I've seen both versions of it, and that one's much more striking.
Thank you, Josh Berry.
Ooh, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one. Nobody's going to be looking at her eyes. I mean, get real.
And Ron tells this story. He was at a show and it was sitting on the table, and this little group of say middle schoolers, 5th, 6th graders, 7th graders, about a little 4 or 5 of them to walk by, and one of them stops. He stops dead in his tracks and calls the other boys over, and they're standing there looking at it. And Ron sees it and he goes, "What are you looking at, boys?" And they all and run off.
That's great. That is great.
So,
nothing.
What are you looking at, boys?
Oh my gosh, that's great.
That's your hand caught in the cookie jar.
So we named all these World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Iraq War comics, but we didn't name anything like 300 or like any of the kind of older.
300 to definitely be included.
Oh, Martin's got you covered here.
Yeah, he's probably.
So okay. I'm going like.
Whoop.
Oh, okay.
You blipped out for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There you go. That's
King
war
David.
for you. Yeah. So this is Kyle Baker's King David, and it is a fantastic romp. It is pretty much the the biblical tale of King David as it goes, but he doesn't finish it because like he ends up like on this final scene here, which is King David has a son, which was
Solomon.
No, it's no. This is the baby that he loses because he stole someone else's wife because he sent them all off to war. He sent them all off to war, and he saw her on the rooftop having a bath and decided to have a baby with her, and then he kills that guy. And well, this is where the book ends, and you're like, where's the rest? So, but it gets to that. But so King David is being hunted by King Saul, so they're warring with each other and doing all this kind of stuff, and it's.
But you made a good point, Cassisi, because 300 was a comic
300,
book.
yeah, and 300 is a fantastic book, fantastic comic, unbelievable comic. Yeah. So, if you ever can get your hands on that, that's a great read. So, yeah. Are there any other ancient comic wars that? The Bronze Age. It was the Bronze Age, the Trojan War, based on the Trojan War.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that book, so don't know.
That was probably a gold key book.
No. The Bronze Age was
it's more
modern. It's a more modern book, and it was black and white. It was a black and white indie comic that. Well, I think it was produced by Image for a while, and
I remember seeing it in previews.
It took a while to get used to the art, but then once you actually like got used to it, it sucked you right in, and you were like, "Whoa!" And you're like, "Am I in this world? What's going on?" And you're like, when you're done reading it, you're like, "What just happened? Like, was I there?" It's just like but it took a while to like get there, right? But once you were like in it, you were like, "Whoa!" And you realize that this guy was like really, really good artist. So, yeah. So that's an interesting, but that's more of a fictional. I think that's more of a fictional story because it's the Bronze Age. Well, it's the story of the Greek Wars.
And would you consider a Conan? Is Conan books just all war? Like I'm just trying to think of his time period. So you would not. You think that's just a very
no. Conan,
that's fantasy.
Conan, there were some wars in the whole milieu of Conan, but because at one point
adventure all the time.
he becomes a king because he becomes a warrior, and eventually takes over a kingdom with in doing battle. But yeah, I wouldn't. So that specific story would be a war comic, but
not
Conan itself is not necessarily. It's a he's an adventurer, not
Right.
a warrior necessarily.
Yeah, that is a war
Trumps,
for sure.
That's
yeah.
a war comic. Yep. That's a war comic. Yep. It fits.
So this is a really cool comic, folks, from Silverline. A really good book. It has war in it, and it has intrigue and stuff going on in behind the scenes. And so, yeah, you get your war scenes, and you get your, yeah. So that's
been plans and yeah.
But that's falling into the world of fantasy, right? So then,
right.
But you can still tell really cool stories in that milieu. I set my Vampire Squad trilogy in 1932 Chicago, so I have to make all the cars, clothing, Thompson machine guns, and period correct and accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
relatively accurate
with fudging it a little, but as long as it kind of feels right, you can do that, because there's going to be, no matter what you do, there's going to be fans out there that go, you didn't put the headlight in just the right place. It's off by 2 inches. There's going to be people that are going to pick stuff apart like that. So you shouldn't worry about it too much, as long as you get in the area and get the feel of the stuff right. You should be okay in a comic book. It's not like you're doing a movie where you can go out and get a car, a reproduction or whatever of it. But fortunately, you can look all this stuff on Google and get pretty good reference for whatever you want.
But as an artist,
from different periods.
As an artist, do you think particularly with war comics that's a big thing? Because I could see how people would do that on steroids. That's not the right weapon.
Right.
They couldn't have used that K-bar.
Funnily enough, yeah, what was it? What was it we were doing? Oh, I was drawing a Colt 45 gun, and Barb was inking it, and she goes, "What did you use as reference?" And I'm going, "I kind of made it up, but it's based on a what is it? A Colt 1911. I said it's based on that. So what does Barb do? She makes it exactly a Colt 1911. So yeah, but I got close. But Barb's going, "What did you use for reference?" So she wanted to get it properly correct, and I get that, and I see, since war comics are a lot of times read by warriors, guys who are in the military, you want to get it right, especially the weaponry. If it's real weaponry they're using, you want to get it right.
Yeah, if it's a story.
That's why when I'm writing Divinity, I will specifically specify, Zach pulls out his Sig Sauer M18, which is the sidearm preferred or used by Marines.
And you give him reference,
I will specify.
Right?
Yeah.
And you give him reference. Yeah. A link, or you can send them JPEGs of stuff too. But yeah, I actually have books of guns. I've showed this off before, but yeah, I got them right here. I can get somewhere. Those are all the women's anatomy books. We don't want that. But here's a page out of one. But yeah, there's a page out of magazines of guns. So I've got several magazines that have lots of pictures of guns in them, and
I've gotten a lot of pencils. I've gotten tons and tons of pencils, not from all kinds of pencilers that they just draw in a vague pistol-like shape. Like, that's not going to cut it,
But do you think it won't cut it for you, Barb, because you're so familiar with weaponry? Does that make sense? Like,
well, when it's just a blob, nobody's gonna.
Believe it.
For me,
Yeah.
I would want to know. Oh, that just kind of looks like an image weapon.
Yeah, which wouldn't really function in the real world. Yeah. But
I want it to
I have-
actually look like a firearm.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, and you might be able to take part of one and meld it onto another if you're doing something wild, crazy. But if you're doing something that's set in our real world, unless it's a sci-fi weapon of some sort that's not standard equipment, you want to try and find some reference so you can draw it properly. But most of the time, if you're just having guys shooting 45s at each other, especially if it's at a long distance, you don't have to get down to the nitty gritty of the details. Just the general shape of those is similar.
Yeah, I won't
from-
get that
from-
picky. I mean, when it's close enough that you can tell
Yeah.
that you're carrying a weapon, I'll
When
put
you can
enough
actually see the
detail.
safety lever, yeah, you want it to look right.
Okay, so we kind of getting up to the top of the hour here. So, but I'm gonna bring up a question, and it might be too deep of a topic to address at this point. But so war comics. Do you think the war comics historically glorified war? Or do you think they were trying to dissuade from war? Or do you think people were just trying to tell cool stories in a war environment?
Depended on the time period.
Yeah, I was gonna say some of it could have been propaganda, but
Yeah, absolutely. During World War II,
During World
war
War II
comics were
especially.
all propaganda.
So Captain America actually comes out of that,
Mhm.
the
Right.
propaganda approach,
Yeah,
right?
beating Hitler up
So-
on stage. Yeah.
Right. So which is a very fascinating concept. So you have him being a kind of a propaganda piece, which is what he starts as, I guess, and then he eventually becomes what he does as a superhero. But okay,
The comics
so
that came out after Vietnam showed a very different reality
right.
from the World War II comics.
So I'll bring this up here because
Yeah.
this was very interesting. Now this is Harvey Kurtzman with Two-Fisted Tales, and his intent with this was to I think show the horrors of war, and
Right.
it was actually technically, even though it was a war comic, it was kind of an anti-war comic. So that was kind of an interesting take. But man,
well,
what a great drawing.
Yeah. You feel it there, don't you?
Yeah. The blacks, the way it's laid out and everything, and you feel the. In his books
impact.
or his stories, you feel the terror, which is kind of interesting. There's like a dark humor in there, but it's a dark humor in the sense of don't go to war. So yeah,
War is not glory. Glory and war really
it's not fun and
don't
games. It's
go
not fun and
together.
games. Yeah.
Yep.
No. Nope.
So yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this evening of discussing war comics. We do have that war comic on tap, ladies and gentlemen, which is Wolfhunter 2, which is on the crowdfunder.
Get it.
Go get that. We have
Get it
6 days
now.
left. So go fetch. Let me see if I can.
And we have another couple of days where Twilight Grim is in previews. Twilight Grim I believe it's number 4. Yeah, is in previews. So
Get it.
go to your
Actually,
go to
yeah,
your
hang
local
on.
comic shop and put it up for
Yeah.
order. Get them to order it for you. And yeah, next month we'll see what Silverline has on tap in previews. They'll have another book.
Yeah, so there it is, Wolfhunter 2. Yes, I colored that puppy from start to end. I colored all the covers and I colored all the interiors. So
And it's almost there. Finished book.
It-
So
And if you missed the first book, you can get that.
And all his crayons are worn to a nub.
Yeah.
Yes. My digital pen is
worn down. Yep.
Yes. So yeah. So definitely take a look at that. That is a fun book to read. There's some pages of the interiors. These pencils are gone, but I think you can still get these inks.
Yep.
These beautiful inks. And and there's your team.
And as always with the crowdfunders that we do, you can, as an add-on, you can buy anything that we have published to date.
Yep.
Is available also to order as an add-on. So
Mhm.
if you're missing a issue of Truth, say Twilight Grim, you can probably pick that up as an add-on.
Oh, Roland. He did not like the Bronze Age. All right.
He didn't like it? Oh.
Yeah. He did not like it. Like I said, the art takes getting used to. Well, but once you get used to it, it's like, oh, okay. But yeah. All right. Yeah. It's also not a fast comic. It is not a fast book at all. So
you have to sludge your way through it, huh?
Yeah. I guess to each their own. Yeah. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It was an interesting discussion down the history of comics and war. And Silverline has you covered. If you're into World War II and spy thrillers, Wolfhunter 2 is your book. So, as we always say, make mine.
I'm Silverline.
Mine Silverline.
Now, how do I end this thing?
Oh my god. Oh no.
I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm looking for the button. Where is it?
Oh my gosh, that's great.
I'm so sorry, folks.
We're going to go on for another hour.
No.
Yes.
Just,
Oh, there we go. I think I found it. Yes, so we will do it one more time. Make mine Silverline.
Make mine.
Hi, I'm Greg Horn. Make mine Silverline.